Welcome to the Fishing Daily podcast. I'm your host, Oliver McBride, and today I'm joined by Northwestern Waters Advisory Council Chairperson Emiel Brouckaert and Executive Secretary Mathies. Welcome to the podcast. I better start with asking about the NWWAC so that our listeners can get to know and understand more about the organisation. So what is the primary role of the NWWAC, Emiel?
Oliver, thanks for inviting us and to attend this podcast and be able to give a little explanation on who we are, what we are doing. The Northwest Waters Advisory Council is an official stakeholder advisory entity to the European Commission, specifically the Director General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. This is a body basically which is described in the Common Fisheries Policy. And we are working on advice on policy, legislation, management of the demersal fisheries and all kinds of issues impacting the fisheries in the Northwestern Waters area.
And what roles have you played in the organisation as chairperson? What would your main role be?
Well, yeah, and generally for myself, then I joined the Belgian Producers Organization and the Fishing Vessel Owners Federation, Reedercentrale, which is called in 2007. And Reedercentrale was a founding member of the Northwestern Advisory Council already in 2005, since the startup. So the organization that I represented, basically, was there since 2005, since the beginning. And I've been taking the position up in, or the representation of Reedercentrale Belgian Fisheries up in the advisory councils since 2007, which means a seat in the executive committee and also in the working groups. In 2016, the Scottish chair of the executive committee stepped down, and members asked me to step in as a chair of the executive committee. So then the whole process started of which we have obviously in our rules of procedure of being nominated as chair of the executive committee. Basically an independent position. So I had to find somebody else representing Reedercentrale Belgian Fisheries interests to become a member of the executive committee, which has happened. And I'm the neutral, I'm supposed to be, and I am the neutral chair of the executive committee, whatever the task that we are doing. I'm sure we're going to come back to what exactly we're doing at that later stage.
Yeah, we'll do. And Mo, what role do you play within the organisation?
I keep an eye on that everything functions beautifully. So we are I'm managing the secretariat. So that's myself. I have a deputy as well, and we have an executive assistant for finance and administration purposes as well. So we're a very small team in the secretariat, and we basically look after the members and ensure that the advisory council's work functions properly. So we organise, for example, all the meetings. When we were able to meet in person, the members would get reimbursed, for example, for their travel. So we would do all of that work, all of the financial background work. We apply every year for the funding from the Commission. This was given on an annual basis under a specific agreement. And basically look after the topics, the items, the issues, the current communications with the members as best as we can. And I think we're doing quite a good job.
Seems to be going pretty well. So how long has the NWWAC been in operation, and what changes has it brought about, or what has it influenced in its time?
Well, as I mentioned, the AC, or the Advisory Council, was founded in 2005, and the membership is based on 60% of industry representation and 40% of other interest representation, with reference to fisheries in the Northwestern Waters, obviously, which is the main topic of our remit. And since 2005, the aim has been to provide consensus stakeholder advice on EU regulations affecting the fisheries and on the related issues in the Northwest Waters. So It's never easy to identify to what effect such advices have led in the final legislative result. But the Commission expresses on a regular basis appreciation of the work that we are doing and of the expertise of the Northwest Waters Advisory Council members that is useful for the work that they have to do around fisheries management and policy.
How are decisions made within the council? What's
well,
the process?
The structure is starts with the General Assembly of all members, obviously, who are on an annual basis approving the work program. The Executive Committee then assigns the topics to be addressed to the regional or to the horizontal working groups that are existing in our organization. And those working groups are basically the bodies who are preparing the advice on the topic that has to be given. These working groups might decide to then, because there's relatively large membership of those working groups, they might decide to suggest that a focus group plans the work and plans the advice, the draft advice. And it's again the ExCom, the Executive Committee, who are deciding whether a focus group, so focusing expertise on the topic basically at hand, is useful. And once the focus group or the working group completes their work and have a draft advice ready, then it comes back to the Executive Committee for approval, for publication on our, and sending to the Commission basically.
And how do we see the advice from the Council affecting the EU fishing fleet?
So I think it's worthwhile to mention that the objective of the common fisheries policy is sustainable fisheries on the three pillars in general, and that the Northwest Waters stakeholders and the experts basically in our membership are preparing advice to achieve this. I think the best way to answer this question is difficult in a podcast, obviously, but you can easily have a look at our website and look at the publications to see the wide scope of items that we are providing advice on. But in the end, it's difficult because there's so many aspects and regulations affecting fisheries in the Northwest Waters, demersal fisheries in our case, that it's difficult to actually identify what the actual impact is on the EU fleet. But I think that's the best way to explain. If we look, and we can list the topics later on or now, what we all preparing advice on, that's useful to have a look at and see how, and then identify how that can impact the EU fleet basically.
Roughly how many people in the council are involved in decision making, and how are they selected for the council?
Right, so the Executive Committee of the Advisory Council is basically built up of 15 members representing the industry, and 10 members of representing the other interests in stakeholder interests basically. And the way it's organized is that in the Northwest Waters Advisory Council rules of procedure, there is then in addition to that, to select a membership, a reference to the representation of all member states having fisheries activities in the Northwest Waters. There is a reference to large and small scale fisheries to be representation requirements. There's also a reference in our rules of procedure on how employers and employees, or that could be based also on the membership. For instance, the European Transport Workers Federation is also a member of our organization, so that's the social aspect is also in there. And then that's the industry side. On the other interest groups, the other interest group consists of a lot of environmental NGOs who are also a member of our organization, consumers representation, and those kind of organizations or representation we have in our membership.
How will Brexit affect the NWWAC?
Well, with fisheries, with with Brexit and fisheries and other items affecting fisheries in the Northwest Waters, and this is the Northwest Waters basically has 4 areas. That's English Channel, the Celtic Sea, Irish Sea, and then the waters west of Ireland and Scotland. Obviously, Brexit is a major change for us as an organisation, and the UK EEZ, so the exclusive economic zone of the United Kingdom, no longer being a part of the EU, and the EU waters in that sense is a major change. And this also impacts obviously the stakeholder advising process. And in order to address this, we have actually created a specific focus group, a Brexit focus group, to look into these consequences and into how we can basically, what is in our view required, a continued cooperation with the UK stakeholders to have a good stakeholder advice process affecting the fisheries activities, the demersal fisheries activities in the Northwest Waters, which is now basically both or even in 3-wise international, EU and UK waters separately.
What are the current primary concerns for the Advisory Council at this time?
This can be a very long answer, but I'll try to keep it short. But coincidentally, I think it's 2 weeks' time from now, or less than 2 weeks' time from now. We have meetings of our working groups and executive committees, and the following items are on the agenda. So I think that's putting them together or combining a little bit the issues and the specific topics. We will be talking about the fishing opportunities in the Northwestern Waters. This is about total allowable catches tax, in other words, and quota, the landing obligation, management of specific stocks are on the agenda. The fisheries effort management is somehow on the agenda. We have also an interest and are following and preparing advice on technical conservation measure regulations. And this is both on fishing gear and also on area closures, for instance, like real-time closures. We are monitoring and following the process of the existing fisheries control regulation and of the revision, which is in process of the fisheries control regulation. An important general topic is obviously the EU Green Deal with its biodiversity and farm-to-fork strategies, for which we have a specific climate and environment focus group which are following this. Scientific advice process is an important topic. So contact with ICES, with the colleagues on how is this impacting our interests, the scientific advice, both by the Commission organization like the STCF and ICES, obviously. And then, as we mentioned, or the question before, the Brexit and the future functioning of the Advisory Council, or even the EU advisory process concerning the fisheries. Those are, I think, the generalistic overview of the topics which are at hand in our organization.
On the Green Deal, there seems to be a drive by the European Union for offshore wind farms. Is the Advisory Council concerned about offshore wind farms, about the growth of them and how it will impact the fish stocks and fish species and their surrounding area?
Yeah, well, obviously in our remit, any spatial use of the Northwest Waters or the seas of the Northwest is of concern to our Advisory Council. So that's clear. And wind farms will certainly be referred at in the advice which is being prepared in our earlier mentioned climate and environment focus group. And I think the last reference, and I mentioned our website and the possibility to look at our publications, the last reference we have is, for instance, last November 2020, We published jointly with two other advisory councils, the North Sea Advisory Council and the Pelagic Advisory Council, advice on the content, for instance, of a non-recurrent request to ICES, to the science, to organize some research on the impact of marine wind energy developments, on the impact on commercial fish stocks of such developments. Yes, it's a constant monitoring of what's happening, but obviously it's difficult to express, as I mentioned earlier, as a neutral chair, to have a specific Northwest Waters Advisory Council view on the impact on prime fishing grounds and so on. I think I have to refer to our specific advice on that. And this is perhaps a question where Mo has closely monitoring that climate and environment focus group might add a couple of comments. I don't know, Mo, can you give some further info on that?
I can if you want. So just to give some detail, the joint focus group with the North Sea Advisory Council and the Pelagic Advisory Council produced this advice, which you can actually find on our website. And the members in there, in the focus group, represented both the fishing industry and environmental NGOs. And there was great consensus on the fact that the expansion of the wind farm development in Europe could have potentially quite a detrimental effect on species. And we are quoting some scientific studies which are becoming more available at this time, especially Australia is doing a lot of research on these things, especially regarding the building phase of wind farms, the seismic surveys, airgun surveys, blasting. All of this has an impact on the marine species, of course. So there is actually great consensus between industry and environmental NGOs on this topic and how much impact it can potentially have. So if you're interested, it is actually quite a good document to have a look at, and what the three advisory councils actually advise to look at from a scientific point of view, what needs to be explored more in European waters.
Very good. And what lies ahead for the NWWAC in 2021?
Well, what certainly is planned in 2021 is the topics that I've mentioned earlier, to complete advice as would be required by the Commission, and that would also include the future functioning on the impact of Brexit, obviously. Yes, so all those topics that I've mentioned earlier are on our agenda as for the working groups, or even at the level where the executive committee will approve advice. And they're all affected, and work is in process on all these items, which we hope to complete in 2021.
And is there anything we should be looking out for from the NWWAC in 2021?
Well, the annual work program of our advisory committee runs from October to September, and over the preceding period, so October 2019, that is to September included 2020. We published 28 documents based on the work that we've done, and on a wide range of issues. So already mentioning the topics earlier, that was year 15 of our existence and of our activities. And in this 16th year of our activities, we're not even halfway in the period, but we've already published 15 documents on the different topics at hand in our organization. So yes, you can certainly expect some more things to see on a general range of the topics that I mentioned earlier for the rest of the year, and certainly until the completion of our activity year in September.
Well, thank you very much, Emiel and Mo, for joining us today on the podcast. It's been very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people's learned a lot more about what the work you're doing, and we'll be following up. Yes.
Could I just briefly interrupt?
Yes.
And just extend an invitation? All our meetings are advertised online on our website, And we welcome observers into these meetings. And if you, for example, yourself are interested in attending a meeting, please just drop me an email and we'll connect you up for these meetings so you can actually observe firsthand how these meetings are conducted and what is being talked about. And the observer role is open to any member of the public who would like to see how we function. So all the details are on our website. Our email address is also on our website, and anybody can contact us via that, and we look after them.
Well, that's fantastic to know. Well, thank you very much again. And hopefully maybe sometime in the future we'll have you on again and we'll have another talk about what's happening with the NWWAC. Thank you very much.
Hopefully live after these COVID situations. Thank you.
Yes, hopefully, yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.